My Jewish mom does not get comedy, which makes no sense because we're Jews. She doesn't think she's funny, but she really is, which makes her even more funny. And she doesn't understand why people think she's funny, which adds to the comedy. And then there's this. She thinks I'm supposed to marry Jake Gyllenhaal. For real. So I made a solo show about it called Marrying Jake Gyllenhaal. Because, I mean, why wouldn't I? And because at the time of its inception, I desperately needed to laugh. Let's go back in time. It's 2015 and I've just ended a 10-year relationship. I did love him, but I was always looking for that thing in him, whatever that thing is that says you're the one, and could never quite find it. And so it goes. My mom starts sending me newspaper articles and emails and texts about Jake Gyllenhaal. Most eligible Jewish bachelor. Jake's finally ready to settle down and have a family. Jake's special relationship with his sister and his mom. I mean, it was ridiculous. He's a movie star and I'm not. So I did what any normal, self-respecting single person would do. I set up a profile on Bumble, and Match, and JDate, and JSwipe just in case, and OkCupid, and Clover, but not Tinder. Tinder's for sluts. Bachelor number 1. Hi! You don't remember me, do you? It's cool. We met like once at Nick's pub, you know Aubrey, right? Yeah, small world. We dated. She dumped me. Want a drink? Oh, sure. What do you drink? A lot. I'm Irish, but I'm not drinking. Oh, I don't have to get anything. You're like shiny. Huh? Your face. I just reapplied my lip gloss. No, you have this like veneer. Oh, this is my first date after a really long-term relationship. How long? 10 years. Whoa. Yeah. So how's it going for you on the acting front? Kind of got blackballed from a couple casting directors' offices. Oh? Yeah, I showed up high one too many times. Oh. It's cool. I was mainly auditioning for commercials and they're bullshit, so, right. I got busted for selling drugs out of my car. Oh, what kind of drugs? All of them. Oh, it's cool. My dad's a cop. I just had to go to rehab. Oh, when did you get out? Last week. Oh. Want to get out of here? Sure. Sweet. You driving? I don't have a car. You don't have a car? Yeah, don't make me feel bad about it. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. YOLO. I know. But desperate times call for desperate measures. So I let him go down on me. He said he was good at it. Bachelor number 2. Out of the blue, I get a message from someone I had happened to go to Northwestern with. JDate? Really? Somehow he found me and we connected. It felt like fate. We'd have hours-long conversations on the phone and FaceTime dates. He was in Atlanta, I was in LA. He'd send me poetry by Neruda. He'd send me good morning texts every single day. We'd talk about marriage and children, things I wasn't sure I actually wanted until he made it seem real. This went on for some time with no indication of when he'd actually come and visit me. Meanwhile, Jake Gyllenhaal. For some reason, everywhere I go, I'd be 1 degree apart from him. For example, I needed to find an apartment. I'm in a kitchen scouting an apartment, and I see a postcard of a movie directed by Stephen Gyllenhaal. I tell the potential roommate about my weird connection, and he tells me he was in that movie. Stephen Gyllenhaal lives around the corner, and he sees them all the time. Okay, I'm at work shooting the shit with my boss. I say, you think your mom's crazy? Mine is convinced I'm supposed to marry Jake Gyllenhaal. He says he just bumped into him. Literally, they collided on the Venice Beach boardwalk the day before. I book a role on the TV show Masters of Sex. In the green room, I strike up conversation with Annalee Ashford, one of the show's stars. My ears perk up because she's talking about a show she has going on in New York, and I say, oh, what show? I used to live there. Sunday in the Park with George with Jake Gyllenhaal. Back to Bachelor number 2. I'm sick of this long distance thing, so I set up a date with a hot-looking Israeli guy at a neighborhood bar. Oh my, Itai, shalom. I spend the night at his house. He asks me if I'm bi, says he senses I might also like women, then proceeds to fuck me like I'm a porn star. I end up with a yeast infection. The next day, I do the walk of shame to my car, LA, and I get a message from Bachelor number 2, Mr. J-Date. You fucked him, didn't you? So much for true love, cunt. Somehow he knew. The barrage of communication I receive in the coming days and weeks is like out of the movie Zodiac or something, so I take myself to the LAPD. Scared and alone, I approach the young police officer, who proceeds to hit on me as I'm reporting Mr. J-Date for harassment. I leave the station in shock, but then again, this is 2016, and misogyny is alive and well in the ether. My next boyfriend turns out to be a highly functioning but closeted alcoholic who tries to get me to steal those little bathroom soaps out of a maid's cart from a trip to Palm Springs. Thank you, next. One tells me to fuck off after I tease him just a little whilst we are naked together in bed. And one actually assaults me. I feel like I'm dying inside. I know something has to change. I think maybe I should move back to New York, but something convinces me to stay. A girlfriend of mine invites me to a women's only writing group, which I really need. I show up with my laptop and really no plan on what I'm gonna write, open up my laptop, and suddenly something starts pouring out of me in the form of a play, a solo play with music that marries my experience with Jake Gyllenhaal, marrying Jake Gyllenhaal. Suddenly I'm hearing songs, lyrics, raps. Jews can't rap. I read it out loud and everyone laughs. About a month or so later, I attend an event where, surprise, I'm selected to pitch in front of actor and renowned indie filmmaker Mark Duplass. I submit some project in advance, a very lighthearted TV pilot about inherited ancestral trauma. But I admit on stage in front of 500 plus people that I'm having a really hard time. Mark looks at me with compassion and says, well, is there something you want to be working on? And I look out to the audience and I say, my mom's convinced I'm supposed to marry Jake Gyllenhaal. And the place goes wild. Everyone laughs. Mark jumps out of his seat. He starts acting out scenarios. People run up to me afterwards. They start telling me their run-ins with Jake. It's so clear I have to tell this story. Now I'm all in. I learn that Annalise Ashford and Jake Gyllenhaal are remounting Sunday in the Park with George in London on the West End at the same time the Edinburgh Festival Fringe is going on in Scotland. Bingo. So I make a plan. I'm going to premiere my show at the Fringe. I buy a ticket to see Sunday in the Park with George. Somehow I'm going to get my show information to Jake Gyllenhaal. I have my flights, accommodations, theater booked. It's happening. And then, global pandemic. The world shuts down. The days and months of fear and isolation take their toll. But at some point, I make a decision. I can no longer stress about where my money is going to come from or whether or not I'm in a romantic partnership. Instead, I take a step forward into my joy, and I decide to let my artist self lead. She has never led me astray. And so when it is safe to do so, I produce a COVID-safe production of my show. I remember the feeling of walking into the theater for the first time and hearing live musicians play my music. We live stream the show for an audience hungry for a theater-going experience and in real need for a laugh. My mom doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. The play is very personal. She did inspire it, and she doesn't get comedy, but she's proud. I moved back to New York, and I have since been on a mission to bring my solo show off Broadway and beyond. Because, I mean, it's amazing, obviously, but really I want to stick it to my mom. Marrying Jake Gyllenhaal kept me alive through the darkest of times. If only he'd returned my phone calls. Thank you.